I thought I would open by asking you about your forthcoming exhibition in October at the Brixton Tate Museum. How's it going?
I finished stretching all the textiles. Um, I do have I'm not too sure. It's a big space, and I've got to go and measure the walls because I want to line the walls with coloured card.
Wow.
I found because of exhibiting at the knitting and stitching show back in
Hmm.
22, I asked then if I could have some coloured card behind the work to make them pop, and they said
Hmm.
yes, because you couldn't paint the walls,
Right.
um, and it seems to work. So whenever I've exhibited now, wherever possible, because I had like three pieces up down in Hastings in a group textile show. Um, uh, I asked if I can have coloured card behind because it really makes um I call them the girls.
Hmm.
Makes the girls
I'll call them the ladies if you don't
ladies,
mind, but
yes,
you're allowed to
ladies.
call them the girls.
Yeah, the women, they just really pop. So this particular space in Brixton, it's quite a big space. It's an awkward space. Um, but Rosella, the curator for the space, she said, yeah, she's been really, really fantastic about saying, um, you know, that go ahead. So it's going to make. I want people to um, just be not overwhelmed, but just really go into this sort of warm all these women are looking at you,
Hmm.
I have this vision in my head how it's going to be. I'm going to, if I can pull it off, I'll be quite emotional because for the knitting and stitching show, um
Mm.
they had professional guys mount everything for you. I was
Mm.
invited to exhibit, and there's no way I could have afforded that space in that
Mm.
venue. And they did everything. I framed everything, but they mounted it. So when I was watching them mounting, they were just like well-oiled machines. They were just it was just in perfect sync with each other, how they moved, and they knew exactly what to do because obviously they're professionals. But when I stepped back and started to see all the women coming onto the walls, I got really tearful because it was the first time I'd seen them um, on mass, and that was only like I
Mm.
don't know, 10, 11 pieces. It was the first time I'd seen them en masse before ever, and I got really emotional. Um, I've got everything stretched. I do have some other textiles that I've exhibited already. They might be in the show, I don't know. But I've now got that thing of um, the cost of framing everything, because
Right. Yeah.
I think I've said before that it's very, very important for me that they're framed. Um,
Hmm.
um, I want to show them that respect. They're very important to me, and as textiles are still, there's still that thing of, oh, textiles, but not my girls, not my girls. No, 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 no. My women are going to, yes, they're under glass and, don't touch, looky, looky, no, touchy, touchy. That's what I say. So, yeah, it's the framing now. I've been collecting a lot of secondhand frames and some, surplus frames from picture framers. And so what I tend to do is um, a bit of woodwork myself, patching up
Uh-huh.
like I can, and
Mm, I thought
and
so.
then some are going to be professionally framed with as much as possible, I would like the anti-reflective glass because
Okay.
it's really great, fabulous stuff for textiles. Um, so that's where I'm at the moment. I'm at the precipice of framing and the costs that involve. So yeah.
Are you finding that in the same way as your fabric choices are somewhat driven by the character? Are your framing choices equally, are you seeing some frames and being like, that's exactly going to be right for that particular piece of bone mind?
No, I am. Yeah, some really go perfectly together.
Mm,
Um, but no, I am a bit like with my textiles choices. Um, I am not so precious about the framing for some of them. I kind of like that. Um, again, with the textiles, you don't know what you're going to get, and if this frame suddenly pops with that one, or yes, and then then there's also the color. I do choose. I am a bit more careful with the backing card color, but
mhm.
no, I am a wee bit more casual with the framing. But as long as they're yes, as long as it's aesthetically looking good, I'm not. But with the main textile for this um, show called if not the tree then check your roots, that's the
Right.
biggest one I've just stretched. um, yes, I want that one. I'm going that I follow several picture framers on Instagram, and there's one
Hmm.
in London whose frames are just so beautiful. I don't know if I can afford him, so I'm going to take along. You have to make an appointment, so I'm going to take along one
Oh.
of my textiles and take it along and see how much it's going to cost. Because I really would like that to be a kick-ass frame, really, you know, yeah, just yeah. So but apart from that, I'm casual, she says.
Okay.
Apart
But
from
then it's not just textiles, right? It's both of your artistic strands. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, with the stone, um, I do make plinths. I make my own plinths for everything.
Okay.
I in terms of those little sort of semi-classical
Hmm.
plinths. I make them because I
Because you
like
can.
the idea of just, let's say, elevating this humble food stuff
Mm.
uh, and bringing attention to it by placing it on a pedestal. So I
Hmm.
make those. I make those. Yeah.
That's so good because this is the thing that so obviously we're having a textile focused conversation, but the thing that has always blown my mind about you, among other things, but is the fact that you were a stonemason as well.
Yeah.
And then I saw that talk that you did as part of the like the Mayday textile elements
Mhm.
conversation, and in that there was something which I kind of want to come back to later, but in which you said you don't feel like you're particularly a textile artist because you're a stonemason for a living, and there was a funny kind of there was a tension between those two forms.
Um. Well, yeah. I forgot what I said. um. Yeah. And that's no not so much the case now. Uh, I
Mm.
am.
This was 2 years ago,
This is
wasn't it?
2 years.
Yeah. So.
That's not so much the case now. Um, I'm a lot more comfortable and settled. More comfortable using the term textile artist. I still
Ooh.
feel, am I still a wee bit apologetic? I don't know. Not so much. I am accepting that people are. I think because people are curious um, about the dual practice, and they're
Mm.
that's fascinating for some people. Um,
Mm.
so I'm not so apologetic. Yes, uh, I know one of your questions is about being in the uh, how do I see myself in the textile community, and I
Mm.
still don't think I am. You know, text. But yeah, I still feel yeah, I'm not yeah outside, but not in a hostile way. I'm not being kept, but I still feel a bit of a yeah, not a fraud. But
No, but I mean, imposter syndrome comes anyway. Is it
yeah,
because, like, relatively speaking, you've not been textiling for a huge amount of time? Do you think that is part of it?
um, well, I say I tell people, and every now and again when I do a post of a textile post on my stone page, I just
Mm.
do it to remind people to yes, I started off with textiles before I started with
Hmm.
stone.
Right.
Mother being a dressmaker, and I did theatre wardrobe. I did O and A level embroidery, etc., etc. So I shouldn't feel, and I've got all my embroidery books still. Um, I shouldn't feel, um, but maybe yeah, but because maybe I earn I earn my living, but from stone, but I don't feel it. I don't feel so outside the loop as I used to. So yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think anybody who's an exhibiting artist and is trying to take their work to new levels butts up against the yes, but it's textiles
Mhm.
story in any form. So I feel if you haven't gone through that, then you've not really been trying hard enough in some ways. It's
Yeah,
almost like part of the journey. But I think, like, I mean, as you said, one of the things that's fascinating about your work is you've got these two strands. So you've got the stone masonry and you've got the textile art. But then also, I think that you've just got this great story that you're telling, whether it's your personal story through your work or whether it's choosing to focus on like BIPOC icons.
mm.
You've just got this great opportunity here to present a body of work that really it not only challenges the textile art thing, but it pushes at all kinds of boundaries simultaneously.
Yeah, I am aware that yes, I'm dealing with these two very opposite mediums. This elitist, and especially now I'm dealing with a lot of marble. This elitist, white Italian marble. You couldn't get, you know, it's
Couldn't get more Roman, could you?
and then with the textiles. Um, uh, but yes, but the subject matter. Um, oh, sorry. What was the question? What was the sorry?
Well, no, it was just that thing of saying, you've got the opportunity here to not only, push forward as a textile artist, but you're having all these cultural conversations as well.
Yes.
So not only is there the story of textile as an art form, that's a load of bunkum,
Yeah.
you've got all these other bunkum related issues that you can address.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, yes. I started off using going using the textiles before as art therapy, not knowing it was art therapy. So it was. So
Mm,
it's for it was. It started off for my mental health. You know,
mm,
um, and I was just yeah, just I used to use the my sewing machine then, and I used to use a lot more stitches then, but with heavy episode on a plique. But so it started off with yes for mental health and getting my demons out, and that's still the case. But then um, I don't know how the um, the um, the historic women of history, the women of history, starts to come into it. Um, but it's well, I think it's because around because of Instagram
mm,
and around a bit more around lockdown, I started to read. I started a lot more history Instagram pages started to come under my nose.
right.
I used to do at school do history, and I used to love history. I did O and A level history, and at one point. much, this is back in the day, this was in the 80s, but they were quite good. I think I was doing A-level history. The teacher sent me off for a day course to SOAS, School of African Oriental Studies, to do a
Hmm.
course, to do a one-day course, because I wanted to look at Black history. So it was always there. Um, but because of lockdown, um, and it's like, and I bought a lot of history books, Black history books, and all this other history started to come through, and I thought, holy shit! I can't remember which my very first one was, but it's they're again, they are very important to me. My favorite one, yeah, yes, I think the very first woman of history that I thought,
Mm.
really, really, her name was Miss Lala. Her
Okay.
name was Miss Lala, and she was. Oh, as a matter of fact, at the moment, I think at Tate Britain, they've got a small exhibition about her, because she was depicted by Degas,
Oh,
in several paintings and sketches. She was an acrobat. She was mixed race, of German and African extraction. She lived in Germany and she traveled with the troupe. Um, so there is a small exhibition at the moment which I've got to go to see what else they've unearthed. But she was the first, and I thought, so yes, but I sold Miss Lala, um, uh, um, um, fairly quickly. But she was the first. But then they just started coming. So it's yes, it's and I also deal with, it's the mental health. It's women of history. It's my own personal demons, because I say I had from the age of 12, acne. So throughout my entire adult life into my 40s, and yes, into my late 40s, 50s, I had troubled skin. So I had to wear
right.
makeup. I had um, 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 I'd take pills, and I was doing lotion. So I deal with that. I've covered that as well, and I think that's where a lot of my, not a lot, but several of my pieces, um, especially early ones, I'm hacking away at myself, um,
No.
either with knives, or I've developed the little icon figure I developed. She developed these sharp little nails, these claws, and I think with one of the textile pieces I've sent you, um, that's partly one. Again, these claws, and that's where the blood comes from. I'm just
Yeah.
hacking away at myself, just to get down to new, um, lovely brown skin. I just want to get rid of the old, the yucky stuff. So that I deal with that, and that's definitely something that I would never have talked about before. Never, never in a million years. I just, yeah, I just kept that to myself. So when that started to materialize, I thought, fucking yeah, oh, sorry, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, carry.
That was really, really, but then I wasn't showing my work. I wasn't showing my
Right.
work to anybody. I was really doing that for myself and
Mm.
getting that out there. Um, but I have, you know, if I have put it on Instagram, I haven't um talked about it. So
Mm.
I might. So I think some of those are early pieces that are on Instagram. Um, uh, but I think I might do a repost at some point with some, and do a wee explanation. But but yeah, I had a really good little a good talk with somebody at the knitting and stitching show with this young girl, and about those particular types of that avenue of that I go down, because she had troubled skin, and
Hmm.
but when we had this lovely conversation, you know, so there's that as well. So and it's also so there's that, and then there's also just how, as a black female, and now as a black, female, on the, middle age, 60 next year, how I navigate through the world, and I do, and the irritations, the jokiness, how I, the Pollyanna, that textile is one of my favorites,
Hmm.
and there's another one I think I don't know if I've given it to you, the the hair, the tortoise and the hare, where
Right.
I see myself, because I say 60 now, and things are
Yeah.
beginning to happen for me. Things are beginning to bubble a little bit, and I've just got all about, yeah. Because I don't see myself as an ambitious person. I'm just yeah, I've just been plodding along, but I've got there, or I'm getting there, I think, eventually. So yeah, so the hair can,
That's fascinating. I mean, so when you started making these pieces, in like you say, there was very much you're internally processing things and making the figures. And
mm,
I mean, did you find that the production process was a useful tool in that respect? I mean, I guess stonemasonry is very meditative and very focused
yes,
in its
it
own
is,
way.
yes,
But I mean, textiles is renowned for its slowness and
yes,
for that, reflection that you get when you're making it. So, I mean, clearly, the way you've just been able to talk about the skin issues just now
mm.
makes it feel like you found a certain amount of peace, or you've just processed a lot of rage, so the rage is a lot smaller. But I mean, can you talk about the process? Did like you have to do a series of certain pieces and then you can move on to other ones, or did you have a bunch of concurrent things, or did it all just come out like a
No,
torrent?
it came out like a torrent, yeah. Um, because say there was the early textile pieces, um, yeah, that was a different process. Then there was this gap. It was 2019. The after seeing that documentary about with Faith Ringgold. And I thought,
Mm.
holy shit, I've got all those textiles from 2004. And then it was the whole, it was the Trump, it was Boris Johnson, it was Brexit, it was, George Floyd. And these textiles just poured out of me. And
Yeah.
yes, so what I tend to do is, yeah, I'll start one, and I just have to see it, have to see it through. But and if another idea comes, one idea can leapfrog over another.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's one that I've done the draw, and at the moment I've been doing that. One idea which is I'm burning a hole in my brain, but and I've started. What I do the drawings for it. I will do the what I call the working tracings for it. But then something else, I think, oh my God, God. And that so I can have two or three working drawings, put aside, because this fourth one has to be done. And then I
Right.
then have to yes, then go back to the backlog. So I sometimes have maybe two or three bubbling. And then there's
Hmm.
my sketchbook, which is full of, where's my sketchbook? Yeah, it's full of doodles. And
Hmm.
what I tend to do is, because I use music a lot, as well as yes, because I listen to music a lot in the studio when I'm carving. A
Hmm.
title can just come to me from a, from, and then I'll write it down, but then I will change the wording around. For example, where's what did I do? Yes, one of them, but I don't think I gave you this. That one of my pieces is called A Hard Knock Life for Us,
Right. Yeah.
and it's three of my icon, three of my figures with cut lips and and they're standing on, I think, the a little hill. I don't know if the water that the water that's surrounding them is the Union Jack. But anyway, but I got that from I think it's a Jay-Z.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, it's
Jay-Z.
either that or Annie. Let's
Yeah,
face it. Though.
yeah. It's called the Knock Life, the Ghetto Anthem, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought I was listening to that when I was carving, and I thought, oh yeah, and the imagery, I can hear a line in a song, and imagery will just come to me. I had to quickly write it down and quickly do a
Mm.
really, really rough little sketch, and then, but sometimes I'll then change the words around. Um, Another example of that, a very good example of that was it's a Kate Bush song, um,
Right.
and that was what anyway, I wrote it down. Um, yeah, it's called "Sat in Your Lap,"
Right.
and there's a line in it that says, "Just when I think I'm king," and I thought, okay. I wrote that down, and I crossed off king and put queen. And then I changed it. I started, and then just when I thought I was queen, and I did
Mm.
that. That's one of my. I think that's one of my early, well, not so early. The 2019 really complicated pieces, where it took
Hmm.
me a lot of time. There was, I regard doing the textiles sometimes when they're really complicated. I regard as a choreography of
Okay.
layers. I've got to work out, um, okay, put that layer down first and then sew that layer on top, and then I can just stitch. So yes, I regard it as a choreography, and there was beading involved with that one. So yes, just when I thought I was queen, that was one of my first really yes, meaty ones. Yeah. So yeah. I like my queens. I do. I've been doing a
I
lot
was
of
going to
queens.
say, yeah,
I do a lot of
Queens is
queens.
definitely a thing, isn't
Yes.
it? I love, what's it, Queen in a World? Like that was one of the first ones I think that really caught me when
Yeah.
I was looking back at your work back in the day, because it's just so iconic. But that one's about you, right? That one's not a historical. I mean, it's got a
Yeah, it's not.
historical.
Yeah, yeah, it's yes. I think yes. It's about me. Yes, yes. Uh, um. That was. Yeah. That was my yes. That was my first queen. That was yes. Yeah, that's my first one. Uh,
Still a cracker.
yes. But yes. It's like that term, being a legend in your own living room.
Hmm.
That's I suppose that's how I view those. So yeah.
I mean, to be honest, without getting too metaphysical for a minute, I think it's in the same way as it's important to stop and smell the roses. I
Mm.
think every now and again it's important to feel like you're a queen. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because life goes by pretty fast,
Yes. Yes.
and you got to take those moments when you can, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I feel that. I think it's just the whole aging process.
Mm,
Um, uh, I feel that more. Um, and know it's yeah. I've heard other women of my age. You just start to relax. You just start to relax,
mm.
and you don't give a fuck really. You know. Um,
I mean, I'm 10 years younger than you, but I'm heading towards 50, and the same thing. Like the amount that you worry about the opinions of others just drifts away really pleasantly,
yes. Yeah.
doesn't it? And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's
Yeah.
such a relief, kind of.
Yeah, and there's been well, even before that, there was every now and again I would go through my bag lady phase,
Okay.
because of because of because of being stone carver and being in work clothes Monday to Friday, stone carving. And I used to wear my steel toe cap boots nearly all the time. Um, so going to and from work, sometimes I would just look like, and I would just relax into it. You just, yeah, and yeah, I go through my, yeah, I really did not care. So yes, I do more of my bag lady, yeah, my bag lady face. Yeah, don't give up, monkey. In fact, I can go to Sainsbury's and think, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
because at the end of the day, who's filming it, live streaming it for a nation of
Yeah,
people watching? Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
A line, a phrase I use, I've been using a lot recently, especially this year. I found, I say, "Who cares? No, no, no one cares. No one's looking. It doesn't matter." I say that a lot to
Mm.
myself now. So yeah.
I mean, there's a trade-off, isn't there? I recently went down to my local corner shop in a pair of Crocs, and I felt like I wasn't on holiday. It was just being a bit lazy, and I was like, am I losing my standards here? They're nice enough Crocs, but it's a bit of a step, that one. So I think sometimes you've got to give yourself a bit of self-discipline, Eds. That I know what you mean. I'm not like thinking, oh, I don't care what people think if I'm wearing it. I'm just like going, Jamie, are you letting yourself go a bit?
Oh yeah,
That's
you strike a balance. Yeah, you strike a
yeah,
balance, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask about like the design of your characters. It's a very iconic way of characterization.
Mm.
How did you get to that? How did you come up with this kind of figure?
When I finished at art college, Wolverhampton Poly, in the 80s, um, I didn't have any studio space. And so I went from Wolverhampton, I came back to London and went back home to live with my mum. And I started doing these large paintings, and I still got them framed, and I was exhibiting some of them. They should come out of the woodwork at some point. That's where they came, and where they came from, I don't know. I think it was because I was carving at college these huge heads. And my degree show was made up of these huge heads, these huge noses and faces and eyes. Um, and so, in painting form, I still wanted to work um, big, naturally. Um, and they came about just somehow, working in my bedroom, um, you know, yeah, just painting these huge paintings. But yes, those paintings I've got them in my lockup, and they were on books. I think that on a few book covers. Um, Women Artists Slide Library used them in their diary back in the day, and
And still that sort of
yeah,
one-eyed, side-facing
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
illustrative.
Yeah, there was that. They developed, and they went, one, I think one went to New York for an exhibition. And that's, yeah, so, but that's how, but then they went, but then I say I forgot about them. How could I forget about them? I don't know. And then say 2019, I unearthed all this work that I was somehow had just gotten buried and I'd forgotten about, and all these paintings. And so that's how the figure started. This
Yeah.
Yeah, this stylized cutout, almost, this sort of golly like figure, I suppose, this, which she is this all encompassing, how society, I suppose, a white society, but not just white society, how I'm seen as a black female, how I'm seen she work the figure works, um, and you can put any kind of, yeah, she's a cutout doll. You can put any kind of clothing on her, um, and just stick her out there into the world and see if she sinks or swims. So yeah.
It's because it's interesting then, isn't it? Because yeah, so therefore you'd already kind of created that visual language when you were doing the paintings, and then you've come up with something which actually, from a textile standpoint, really easy to implement. Whereas if you'd have decided to go down the portrait quilt, trying to make it look like photorealistic or
Mhm.
whatever, as some other artists do,
Mm.
you made yourself a ton of extra work.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so I used to use a sewing machine with my early pieces, but for some reason now, I yeah, these all have to be done by hand. Um,
Right.
and I think you mentioned earlier on about the process of
No, no,
of of um uh um yes, yes, it's textile work is a slow process, but I have deliberately um taken a faster route, the fastest route I possibly can to get my ideas out. Because the ideas were the titles, the imagery were just pouring out of me. I needed to do it as quickly as possible. Hence, this style of applique developed.
no.
Because my stone carving is that very, 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 very slow process.
Mm,
Um, and these, and it's quite obviously it's quite monochrome stone carving, although you can paint if you want, and gilding is involved, but but um, so I think that when the first textile pieces I did, I think I sent it to you, was this what I've forgotten, is it long and short stitch? What's the name of the stitch? I forgot. Um, it's called happy. I think they're called happy pills, and
right.
that was, it just took too long. Just took too
Right.
long. Um, I enjoyed the process, um, but I just have too much to say, and so the applique work and the not, or to begin with, I was very, very random with my choosing of fabrics. Not so
Hmm.
much. Not. I don't do that now. I I'm much more careful. Again, it's all part of the choreography. So the textiles look quite higgledy-piggledy, but I very carefully chosen all the textiles. And I want that to blend with that. So there is a lot more thought in choosing my textiles, but I'm still relaxed. And it's still a lot quicker than doing how other textile artists work.
Mm.
That's why I suppose I still think I'm a bit of a fraud, because they do these beautiful stitches, and I'm just slapping a bit
Mm.
together and
I,
stitching, slapping a bit of beading on. But no, it's how I enjoy working. It works for me.
because the other thing that occurred to me about the nature of the characters you choose
Uh-huh.
is that it's like a distillation, in a way. There was, I did a talk with Orly Kogan, and she uses images of herself in her work, but she presents them as naked, and by doing so she turns them into fictions.
Mm,
She's like, this isn't me,
mm,
this is a fiction.
mm.
And in some ways the characters that you present are the same kind of thing,
Well,
because you're not you're like disconnecting them from the human,
mm,
but you're remaining with the story,
yeah.
like whether it's your stories about the personal issues, or whether you're telling histories of black people.
Mm.
Like, it's a really useful tool, I think. I wonder whether that's partly where the historical thing came through.
Yeah. I maybe it's a way of me. It's a way of me connecting with these unforgotten women in history. Um, Oh God, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay.
'Cause it's an opportunity to tell their stories without getting hung up on having to make the inaccurate picture of them, or make historical, find a photo and try and
Yeah,
do them justice
yeah,
in that way.
yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, I don't. Um, I do. I pick certain elements. I'll go with a photograph of them, and yes, deliberately pick certain elements.
Mm.
So it's to characterize that person. Um, but no, I don't. I know there's I don't know. I don't go down. Lots and lots of details. It's still that little. It's still my figure. Um, and it works, and that's all I need to. It works. That's all I need to do.
Mm.
Um no, I'm stumbling here, but
No,
yes,
no, no.
yes, basically yes. Yeah,
But
whatever, whatever.
no, but I think that's the thing, because I was listening to that talk, and you were saying about your process and how a lot of the time the decisions you make about fabric and the decisions that you make about the objects you include are all part of the storytelling. That's how the
Yes.
story is framed. And so it just gives you the opportunity to get to the essence of a person without needing, it's like a historical fiction, but it's not. You're just telling a historical
Yeah,
story.
there are just certain motifs with each character that you need to tell their story. Miss Lala was well, it was more in her dress. She was upside down on a trapeze, on a trapeze bar, and then that's Miss Lala. Um, um, um. What did
I liked, was it Sister Rosetta
Oh yes,
Tharp
yes, yes. She
with the
was.
guitar?
Yes, she was. I think she's my latest historic one. I think yes, and that was very important because the picture I have um, of her, she's dressed all in white, and she's got this white guitar. But getting all white against white was tricky. So, but I still wanted. It's still important with each history figure, I have an element of African fabric.
Mm.
So it says, yes, this woman is obviously she's a woman of color because of the brown felt, but I always have to try to incorporate whether she's in America or German extraction or I want to incorporate a little bit of African fabric into the story, just
Mm.
to underline to people that this is her background, this is her heritage. Queen
And
Elizabeth.
Rosetta's the guitarist. Bessie Springfield, I do want to shout out to her as well, because she's got the best motorbike.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. That motorbike was yeah, that was definitely choreographed. Because I wanted it predominantly white,
Hmm.
but because one of the pictures I saw, she was on this white motorbike. But in that, yes, I wanted the. I think I got into it. The blue blood of happiness. Um, and yes, so yeah, there definitely a bit of African fabric in there, and a bit of white leather work in there. So, yes, it was that was a lot of fun,
Mm.
picking that. But there has to be a little bit, so a little bit of African fabric in there somewhere, just to underpin um, her story, her background. So yeah,
And you said as well that you use African fabric. It's kind of shorthand, isn't it,
yes.
for anybody of a sort of, I guess, BIPOC background? That'd be fair to say, because you couldn't find Caribbean fabric so readily. I think that
Yeah,
was what
yes.
started it.
Again, when I first started using the lost wax fabric or shorthand African fabric, I felt a bit again. I felt a bit of a fraud. I thought, well, um, again, I was having this conversation with a Nigerian woman the other day, saying I don't take it lightly, just banding about the word, Africa.
Uh,
Or I do take it quite seriously, but it was the only way I could. Um, it was the best fabric to um, just underline, just to denote my heritage. Yes, my heritage is West Indian, you know, Jamaican, but as you say, there isn't the in terms of fabric, um, with such a beautiful variety, there isn't so I gave myself permission, and I'm okay
Mm.
with it now.
But because you also do other things, don't you? You said, I think you said you sometimes you use chintzy fabrics because that gives us a suggestion of Britishness.
Yeah, oh yes,
But then whenever your characters are standing on hills, that's meant to represent England. Is that right?
yes, yes. The little hillocks that they stand on are usually on a chintz, or
Mm,
sometimes I use the Union Jack flag itself. So I've got some fabric that printed the Union Jack on, and or even sometimes the hillock is surrounded by. I do these little sort of waves of the Union Jack
hmm
to denote, you know, we are an island. I'm on an island. So yeah, it's that's a shorthand, and the background I started to use quite early on. I didn't realize I was using the background, a chintz background, um,
mm,
to say this is where I live. This is, you know, uh, the majority are white English, and I this is the land, this is the country I live in, and
mm,
I'm a little black figure in this country, and hence the hillock as well. So the background is usually chintz, quite often chintz, and
mm,
hillock. Um, but sometimes, you know, just this plain. Sometimes the subject matter just needs a plain background. Um, or yes, I quite often use bed sheeting as well. Um,
right.
that's quite useful. So, but yes, old curtains, old tablecloths. Um, yeah.
And are there certain kind of like those kind of rules, if you like, rules of construction that you use? Do they tend to follow when they're more personal pieces, and then maybe the historical pieces you have a different flavor in the construction?
Well, for the motorcycle one,
Mm,
I really, I say I get gifted fabric, and obviously,
hmm
I I go rummaging around, you know, for all sorts. But I was given that fabric. I had it for ages, and it was really hot, and it because it was a motorcycle queen of Miami. I really wanted to use that fabric. I had to use that fabric, that background, and it really worked. I'm so pleased. I was determined that, you know, yes, she's in white, and the motor, so it all had to work and pop together. But yes, there was this hot um, uh, reds and golds, and it just
Yeah, like
denoted
daffodils and stuff,
Miami.
isn't it?
Yes, for me. Uh,
Yeah, and it's interesting actually because it's almost you've got that daredevil feel about it. It almost feels like she's behind this like flaming hoop or something,
yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
There's a real like power to it.
That worked really well. I'm so pleased with that. Yeah, she's going into the show. I really love her.
When you're doing the historical stuff, do you have a particular intention in mind? Are there certain characters you think I really want to focus on that? How do you choose who to do next, as it were? So that's an elegant way of putting it.
It really, it's really a case of what comes under my radar. Um, the motorcycle queen, she's been bubbling for a year or so. Because I did have I do have a file of imagery on my laptop of you know, black women from history. So she's been bubbling. She was there for a good long while. I don't know why it took me so long to do her. And same with Godmother of Rock and Roll. Um,
Mm,
she's been knocking around for a wee bit, but other other more personal stuff had to be executed first, I suppose. And as I say,
hmm
things, as I said, textiles leapfrog over each other.
mm,
And, um, but it, I don't know, it's just what obviously something just made me think, okay, now I need to execute this piece and get it out. Um, oh, and there was another one. I'm not too sure if I've done her justice. She is my ultimate heroine. Her name is I think it was not Edmonia Wildfire Lewis. He
Wow.
was a stone carver
Okay.
in the 1800s, um, and she was a part Native American and African, and she
Mm.
started carving in America. She went to Rome to start to carry on carving to learn more, and she was in this artist colony in Rome where they were you know anyway the there's a whole backstory, but she is my if I you know that question people get asked, oh, a person from history, who would you like to have for dinner? Of
Mhm.
history. It's Edmonia. It's Edmonia.
Yeah.
She's the one I would want to sit down with a bottle of gin and a packet of crisps. And yeah, and I just want to talk to her. So when I was in Italy last year doing this marble portrait, I was at one point when I first arrived, I was a bit tearful because I don't know of any other black females who carve stone,
Really.
marble, um, in this I suppose I call it an academic white historic style
Mm.
who have gone to Italy to carve. Because I trained as an architectural stone carver, so I'm formally trained, so like her. And so I was just, yeah, she was on my mind a lot. So I've done a textile, but it's taken me all. I have done other textiles about her, but
Hmm.
this one took. I don't know why it took me so long, but she was obviously bubbling for a long while. But I still don't think I've done her justice. I love her skirts. It's like yeah, I've done little flames on her skirts, and
Wildfire.
she's holding a
Yeah.
mallet, and she's got her little cap on and her little coat.
Hmm.
She's standing next to a bust, you know. So it works, but I'm not too sure.
There's a lot of gravity riding on this
I
one,
could do another
isn't
one.
there?
I could do another one of her.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I keep all my working tracings of
Hmm.
every piece I've done, so I can technically do a copy, but it was never going to be the same because the textiles are never going to be the same.
Mm.
But the image can be the same. So I've got that option.
So then, the curious thing then, and like I say, this is a textile show. Obviously, the stone carving. Do you mostly do food when you're making your own art
My own
out of stone?
pieces, yes, my own pieces. I have for some. Well, I know the reason. My own is all things culinary,
Right.
and sometimes it can be a slightly obscure link, but it all comes back. It started off. When did it start? I did my main piece for for my show at where I trained at City and Guilds of London Art School, a very formal architectural stone carving course, very formal. Um, and you're trained to work in the trade, so your work is for buildings, and you know.
Mm.
So my main piece for my show was this a thing called a festoon of the fruits and vegetables fauna of the West Indies. It's a huge
Okay.
piece. So that's where I started to research food and, carve and what have you. Um, Although I think saying that, even when I was at Wolverhampton, I knew I wanted to find uh, I wanted to learn more about stone carving, because I knew what was bubbling even back then was I wanted to be able to depict my own culture in this very formal, elitist, white medium.
Mm.
I want to see my own culture, my own stuff, my own,
Mm-hmm.
but it turned out to be food. Because food is a universal
Yeah.
topic, a universal thing. So yes, so
Mm.
my own pieces in this. So I will be showing a few stone pieces, but my own personal pieces are food related. So I can do it in a very detailed way, showing every little, crook and cranny and, leaf and vein if I wanted to. But quite often, I will just take an element of that um, style of carving and simplify it. So it's a simplified, sometimes distorted version of a beef tomato or a sweetheart cabbage, which I've recently done and sold. But then there's still that small element of historic carving involved. So there's an element. So yes, yeah, food is a universal thing. And oh god, I'm really talking, aren't I?
No, no, no. I love it. I love it. Keep going.
So what in my other? Because I told you I used to be really involved in history. Really loved history, but I wanted to do at one point uh, maybe another degree course in the anthropology of food because
Okay.
I'm fascinated with how I've got lots of reference books on food and food and history, food through history and the anthropology of and how you know for example with Jamaica how our eating habits in Jamaica and the Caribbean were influenced by, how the Portuguese the Portuguese were the first slave traders, and the Portuguese
Mm.
were the first to hit the islands, and they brought the salted fish because
All right.
the sailors had salted fish on board, and
Mm-hmm.
so the ackee and salt fish. That's where we get the salt
Yeah.
fish. So it's a case, and this is the case with all cultures. A
Mm.
lot of cultures. How even the eating habits, the eating times, what we use, the implements we use. I'm fascinated by all of that. The pots we use. There was a big Jewish contingency came to the West Indies, and so we're influenced by food from them and cooking implements by them. Um, yeah, it's fascinating. So yeah, food is Oh yes, I can yes I can food and textiles and stone carving. God, what a mess! Jesus Christ.
There's a book that's called A Short History of the World According to Sheep by Sally Coulthard.
Oh, no, I never saw that one.
No, no, no. But basically, what it is, it's one of these other like looks at life and anthropologically, but how the sheep turns out to be one of the most important animals in history. Because, for instance, without sheep being able to produce wool, being able to produce strong fibers, like the Vikings would have never made it across to the UK.
Mm,
It's one of these ones where throughout history there are certain historical references to sheep back in the Egyptian time and all of this sort of thing,
yeah,
and just this animal that you just kind of take for granted,
yeah.
but it turns out it's like one of the most magnificent like pieces of our societal history
Mm.
ever or something. And I kind of love that. That's exactly what that was making me think of. Or something like the fact that we used to have like 500 different types of pea
Oh,
in
really?
the
Oh,
UK,
how
but nobody ever really thinks about that now. It's just bonkers, really. When you're making the carvings, and obviously, I guess some of that is just commercial carving, so you're making stuff that other people have asked you to do. Does the creative process for your carving art sit in a separate part of your brain to the creative process for your textile art? Do they come together? Is there going to be a point when they meet? Because you said that like you somewhat iconize.
uh,
You make food and you simplify it to make it more translatable in the same way as you do with your
yeah,
figures. I
yeah.
wonder whether they're concurrent streams. Do they merge?
As yet, no. Um, no, no. Uh, Obviously, that's something that's come up on several occasions. I mean, um, I earn, I earn my living. I do. The food pieces I do. Um, I do again for myself because I'm in Sainsbury's and I'm passing by the vegetable aisle and I saw this sweetheart cabbage and for some reason I've never seen a sweetheart cabbage before. I thought, oh, that's really beautiful. Oh my God, and I'm looking at it. So I'm standing there comparing which sweetheart cabbage to pick up. And so I do those. I do a lot of the food stuff for myself and then people seem to buy them. But so I have been commissioned for one or two pieces, but I earn my living with the with my letter engraving. So
Mm,
but the food pieces I do more for myself, but people buy them. Um, but having them merge. Um, the the stone. There's something bubbling. There's something bubbling, and I like the idea of wrapping stone with fabric, just like
mm,
mummifying it.
mhm,
But but I'm not going to force it.
mm.
When it, I'll probably, what happens quite often is, because I now sometimes have to, because our shower here at home is shite. I end up wallowing in the bath. So I wallow in
Right.
the bathtub. Um, and I sometimes have to have a notepad beside me because
Uh-huh.
quite often I get my ideas wallowing in the bathtub. And so I have to reach
Mhm.
for the notepad. So, but I will I will when also so when I have written down ideas, but I'm not ready to um, force that the merging of the stone and the textiles as yet. When it comes, it will come, and I'll jump out of the bath and
You'll have a eureka
you,
down the hallway.
but something's bubbling, something's bubbling. But I just don't know what yet. What I have done with stone. Um, I have done several pieces. I've called it my monkey see, monkey do season series. And I've done a series of bananas, and these bananas are in different types of stone. But I've done one where it's in marble, but I want to redo that one. It's in marble. I think it's one of my first ones, and I've inserted lots and lots of shards of glass and nails and pins, so the shards are just bursting out of this white banana. The thing behind that, oh sorry, we're talking about textiles, aren't we? Sorry. The
No, no,
monkey,
no, no, no,
the
no, we're not.
monkey
We're
see,
talking about art.
the monkey see, monkey do series of bananas came about because of I've come across and still come across um, people who are still are surprised, um, are taken aback that a black female carves in this seemingly white, historic, academic style.
Mhm,
I should be doing, yeah, it's very again I'm working in this very elitist medium,
mhm.
and so I the when I was even when I was training, I used to get it. The idea was that I, as a black female, couldn't possibly um, uh, have or develop the necessary aesthetic uh, um, well, I can't, what, oh, I
Just it would be beyond you, isn't it?
yeah,
It sounds so daft when you try and say it out
qualities,
loud,
the
quite
the
frankly.
aesthetic
Yeah.
qualities. Thank you. Of that, I do. I couldn't possibly develop the aesthetic qualities needed to carve this style of work. Um, so I must be, monkey see. I just copy, but you're trained at college. As we were to copy. That's the point of an artisan. But
Mm,
to copy for restoration conservation work, so your piece goes back into a building and you carry on the tradition of that the history of that building. So we are trained to copy, but the thinking was that I couldn't possibly know what I was doing or the history behind what I was doing. I was, so hence the monkey see, monkey do thing. I started
mm.
the whole series of that. And yeah, there might be a textile bubbling there as well, but this is how my textiles start. I'm usually having a conversation with something, and then oh, something will a
Yeah.
line of word will come up, and I'll just quickly write it down, and I will develop
I love it.
it.
It's
Anyway,
reminding me of when you know your porridge is done, and because the bubbles start slowly coming to the surface. They
yeah,
don't come like fizzy water; they just
yeah,
come to the top, and they go,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm ready." I can see that. I completely love the fact that you're saying, you've got these ideas, but there's just no rush because there's plenty of other ones that are just getting
yeah,
in the way.
yeah.
That's
Yes,
clearly like the right
I've got
philosophy.
two. I've got so much in stone and in textile because I want to. I want to. What was I watching the other day? I started watching this. Was it was it the prequel to Game of Thrones that's now on?
Oh, House of the
Yeah,
Dragon.
yeah, that. And it reminded me that I want to do this Bayeux tapestry type thing in my
Okay.
textiles. I want to do a really, really long piece. Well, oh God, just there's so much I want to do. But yes,
Could it be like a Bayeux tapestry? Like a sort of New Orleans version of it or
oh yeah,
something?
there's that. There is that. There is that. There is that. I think I pronounced it wrong. Bayeux. Anyway,
Bayeux tapestry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you
yeah.
mean. Yeah, yeah,
But and I started to think of what story do I want to tell? Do I want to tell my story, or women from history, or mixture, or just queens? So yes, I'd love to do a really really long. Yes,
yeah. Yeah.
that
Magnum
that's
opus.
bubbling. I need that's. But I need the space. I've got no space.
Can I ask a couple of dumb stonemasonry questions?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you get it so smooth? Do you sand it?
Yeah, to begin with, depending on what stone you're working with, you use a thing called a little, they're basically little fancy files called rifflers,
Right,
and they're double-ended, and they've got different shapes either end, which helps you get into the nooks and crannies, and so you ideally you're skilled enough to get your surface to a good standard just with your hammer and chisel, but
right,
then you get to the riffler, or file, which again smooth, and then it's sandpaper. So yeah,
right. And then how do you? Because I was thinking about this. Obviously, you're hitting with a hammer and a tool of some sort, so that's quite hard work on your hands. But at the same time, you've got to be able to feel what the stone is doing, right? The sort of
yeah,
connection with the stone, the
yeah.
tension of it.
Yeah, there is. There definitely is that. I think that's why I wasn't very good. I've tried. I admire wood carving immensely. I follow quite a few wood carvers on Instagram. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful medium. I wish I could, but no. But for me, it's I've tried doing wood carving, and it's not the same. With stone, there's a sound to it. There's a ring and a bounce. The sound of the chisel hitting the stone, and the chisel can bounce, and it's rhythmic, and it's that's very again very therapeutic. And if you rub your hand over a piece of wood, you're going to get splinters, as far as I'm concerned. But you
Mm.
can. you know, and you can feel the stone as you're going along, and you and how the light hits the stone if you know you've got um, an area you need to work on a bit more. You just sort of tilt your head and see where you need to, you know, take a shave off a wee bit more. So yes, it's a lovely medium. Yes, yes.
And then the other question I've got, and I've often thought this because I always joke about the fact that I love working in needlework because the postage is so cheap.
Mm.
Um, what do you do when you do a really big? Are you like really strong? Like, because the pieces, do you not sometimes do a piece and go, well, I'm never going to be able to move that because it weighs a quarter of a ton or something?
I don't do big. I don't do pieces. Well, if I'm commissioned, then you know, but as yet, I've never done. What there was one statue. Uh, the criteria for the statue has changed now, so it's now gotten smaller. So it's now I will be able to execute it in my workshop, which is I'm much happy about. But I've got a statue I'm going to be doing for this community gardens, um, just up the road from King's Cross Tube Station, King's Cross
Okay.
train station, and that was going to be just a larger than, you know, larger than life size figure in stone. Um, and you know, I was very excited about doing this, but I did say, oh look, you know, look, well they said, you know, what is the best scenario, Marcia, for you to do this? And if we find you a workshop where you could execute this, would you be able to do it? And I said, well, yes, if I'm a workshop with all the, 'cause there's lifting equipment. So that's how you move stone
Mm,
about.
yeah.
Because I learnt the hard way at college at Wolverhampton Poly, because I had no tuition whatsoever, even though there was a tutor there. He didn't like me, so I was left to my own devices. There was a gantry, which is a, you know, a big, you know, lifting piece of equipment, and I just learnt to use all the lifting equipment myself. So
Right.
yes, you can move stone. If you've got the space and the equipment, you can move stone yourself. Um,
Mm,
but yes, but I so far most of the pieces I've done, I can manage myself. I don't like relying on other people. I
mm,
hate relying on other people. I really hate it. Yeah. So if I can execute, if I can keep everything within my own control,
hmm
stone wise, then I will. But sometimes you have to farm work out. Um,
mm.
I have done that. But yeah, even moving stone, I hate having to ask people to help me, but sometimes you just have to, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not silly.
Can you tell by looking at a piece, you'd be like, no, I won't be able to lift that one now.
Oh
You
yes,
know,
yes. Oh
take a
yeah,
bit
yeah,
off.
yeah. But then still, again, just because of where I trained, you learnt to find ways of moving big blocks. There's ways of, you know, rocking a block and, you know, doing a kind of step motion until you get to
Right.
the level, and then you shove it on, and there's rollers. There's all sorts of ways that, you know, you can, you know, move stuff. And so yes, yes, I am strong, so I can lift a fair amount,
Mm.
but I don't do it anymore because, yeah, Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. That's what
I know it's a
technology is
daft
for.
question to ask.
Yeah.
It's just I remember once going, I think it was to a Henry Moore exhibition and look at some of the pieces and just going, you know, what if you just make art that's huge as standard? And you're just like, well, I've got to have a big studio.
Yeah, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I know. I'm not one of those artists. I'm not just talking about stone. I'm talking about paintings or any medium. I don't. I'm not a big fan of big for the sake of big. At art
Until
college,
the tapestry piece
yeah,
that we were
well,
talking
yeah,
about,
all
then
my
maybe.
tapestry piece, all my textiles are just happen to be more or less A3 size. A lot of them are A3 size, but now some of them, if they need to be bigger, then they're bigger. If they need to be bigger, um, um, but otherwise they're A3 size. And but then that Bayeux tapestry one is just for the. It's just all. Yeah, I need to. Yeah, because I need to do that. I need. I would love to see that, but I don't just do big for the sake of big. With my stone carving, I find that very irritating. The painting has to be huge because the gallery wants it big. Or I used to call them big dick paintings. I don't. Yeah, I don't have time for that. Sometimes some paintings and work can be just as beautiful and just as difficult to execute, small and
Mm.
they're just as beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm,
I'll
I'm
shout
watching
out to
this.
Karen Garfin actually there, who she's a needleworker. She originally trained doing like needlework samplers for doll houses. All of her work is teeny, teeny, tiny, and it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, quite right. Let's do the big questions. Now that we've talked about all of the art stuff, the really easy stuff, let's go on to the hard questions of do you have a favorite band slash album?
No,
Good. Okay. Let's talk
no,
about
I
music.
I listen to music um in the workshop and in the car. Because
Hmm.
it's an hour's drive to my workshop. I listen to music all the time, all the time, all the time. I used to listen when I was carving to the radio. Um,
Hmm.
I used to listen to Radio 4 because I used to like, the documentaries and, the Archers and, the Woman's Hour and all that but I stopped listening. It was just getting on my nerves. So I listened to music. But um, there are, yeah, there isn't a single favorite album I have. There are in the car. There are some albums which get played for months,
Go on.
months and months and months and months. I'll tell you, the one I've gone back to. I can't believe I've gone back to her. I mean, I've worn out the CD. It's Janet Jackson. It's a Janet Jackson
Hmm.
double album. It's compilation. I'm sorry. I know I should maybe I should do something a
No,
bit more
there's no wrong
bouncy,
answer
but
here. There's no
it's
wrong answer.
Janet does the job. It gets me from A to B.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's double album, and so yeah. But no, I don't have a no. My music tastes are very 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 Catholic.
Okay.
I've got the Arctic Monkeys. I think I've got nearly all the Arctic Monkeys CDs. But then I've got Simon and Garfunkel. I've got Macy Gray. I've got XTC. I'm looking at my Alexandra O'Neill. I've got Scar. Yeah, so I don't have a favorite album.
How do you feel, just going off on a tangent, how did you feel about the Arctic Monkeys when they went down the Tranquility Base Casino
No,
route?
no, no.
It's the same as my wife there. She's like, because the other album, AM, was so good. We saw
Yeah,
them tour that one.
yeah,
Such a
yeah,
banger. And then they've gone left field. But in fairness to them, they stayed on the left field. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? So you're like, well, he's just obviously going in another direction.
yeah.
But
No, I didn't
that's
do
funny.
that.
Do you listen to different music doing textiles to doing carving, or is it just anything goes wherever you're
Anything
feeling on the
goes,
day?
anything goes, anything goes. Um, Sometimes, tell you what I do. I tell you what I've started to do. And I've been doing it for quite a while now. When I was in my old studio, because sometimes I will take textiles to the stone studio, but I will clear when I had a bigger space. I would clear. I have clean boards and I'll make
Hmm.
sure that day is a clean day and the styles stay all fabric, nothing touches the
No
floor, nothing goes,
dust.
yeah. But I listen to podcasts and
Right.
when I'm doing textiles. And as a matter of
Mm.
fact, I started so I hadn't been listening to yours, but I started to listen to yours when I was stretching my fabrics. and I was
Okay.
quite enjoying them. I thought, because
Huh.
I think I have to download because I get really shit internet connection in my
Hmm.
workshop, so I have to download them. But there was one. Oh, well, I actually wrote. So I was actually taking notes from what she said. Cass Holmes.
Yep.
Yes, I
Little
thought she
Kaz.
was
Yep.
because she was talking about, and I thought, oh, because I wrote it down about art built on failure and
Mm.
burning your work. I thought, oh, I love the idea of burning my work. Getting rid of
Yeah.
getting rid of the old stuff. So
Mm.
but anyway, so sorry, off track. Um
No.
I don't listen to I don't listen to anything different that much, but when I'm textiling, I tend to do more podcasts now. So yeah.
Mm. Oh, well, I feel very honoured to be part of that assembly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
listen.
talking to Kaz as well. Kaz really thrives in that kind of the fearless space because she's kind of like, uses found objects, all that kind of
Mm,
stuff.
mm.
She's very much just like, I'm just going for it and,
Yeah.
not too much editing. And I think that's really
Yeah,
kind
I
of
liked that. I liked
brave.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was another no, what was the other? She was one of your early podcasts. She did she did her favorite piece was the Paul McCartney one with
Oh, Jane Sanders,
yes,
Stitching in the Kitchen.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a very good one. I enjoyed, but yes,
Super
yeah.
charismatic. Talk to her for days. Cool.
Okay,
Okay.
right.
Now, do you have a favorite book, or what was the last good book you read, depending on which one works better?
My okay, again, my favorite. Wait. It's not a favorite book. It's not a favorite book.
Okay.
It's a volume. I
Ah.
love this book. It's the image of the black in Western art. There's 10
Mm.
volumes of it, and it's Harvard University Press, and it's done by David Bindman and Henry Louis Gates Jr.
Right.
10 volumes. It's as it says, the image of the black, depicted by whites, and people from history, and but it goes from the pharaohs and the fall of the Roman Empire, and it goes through to early Christian era, the American Revolution, and then it goes finishes on the 20th century and the rise of the black artist. So it covers
Okay.
10
Mm.
volumes, um, and I've been collecting those um, for donkey's years. I mean, they're big volumes. Yeah.
Mm.
First came across them. I first came across one volume at Wolverhampton Poly in the 80s, and I didn't know anything about black art. I
Mm.
hadn't seen black art. I didn't know anything about black artists. I'd never seen any imagery of black people in art. And there was this one volume, and I thought, holy shit, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Mm.
This one volume they had, and obviously I think I took photocopies from it, and then that bubbled. Then I came across more volumes. I was doing this. I was working as an apprentice in San Francisco, a stone carving apprentice during my summer holidays, when I was training, and I got hold of more volumes. I thought, oh my god, oh my god! I just spent a fortune on photocopying in color. So again, years and years later, I think I think did I buy my first volume? But anyway, subsequently, my then boyfriend, now husband, has over years been buying me because they're not cheap. They're not cheap.
Right.
um, buying me a volume. Every now and again. And I forget, so I've got all 10 volumes now, but they
Wow.
are just so beautiful. There's a wealth of imagery in there that it's take a lifetime to look at properly, and the information. So yes, so there's that. That is my. If there's a desert island disc thing, I would take that. I
Hmm.
would take those volumes with me.
Yeah.
Um, but then, in terms of literature, it came up and I thought, I don't know why I love this book so much. I've read it twice, and I think I've seen two adaptations, the BBC adaptation, The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas
Okay.
Hardy. What's that about? I still, because even I was thinking about it, I think, you know what, I could read that again for a third time. What is it about this story that I loved so much? Um, yeah, yeah, that's yeah, but yeah, that's yeah. So those are my
I got another. I've got another book related question then, and I hope you don't mind me asking this.
okay,
Imagine that I'm a white man who is doing his best to be aware of cultural issues.
okay.
What's the best like black history book do you think I ought to read? One that's maybe not too heavy, but is there a good one that will just help me keep my perspectives broad?
Gosh, gosh. Oh, God, no. Where would where would I start? Oh, Jesus.
Because also, I've got two young children, and we've got a couple of books. There's one about, I think there's is it Timelines of Black History, something like that, which is a really useful one for actually spelling things out.
Okay, I've got one. Okay, where would you start? I'm looking at. You could start with a quite looking at the Black Victorians because it was it was it was with the Victorians that because before then there were because I've got one. I'm looking at another one called Black Tudors. Um, but another textile piece I did, which again sparked up a whole story, a really lovely conversation, which actually, sorry, I'm really jumping around.
Go on.
Uh, 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 a textile I did sparked off another textile I did, which is now going to be the main textile for this. If not the tree, then check your roots. Yeah,
Hmm.
I did a textile piece called "Since the Romans" because I'm getting back. I'm getting back on track. I'm getting back on track. Getting back on track. Um, Black people have been here, been in England since the Romans. We've been here. We
Right.
came with the Romans. We came as soldiers. We also came as slaves. There were white slaves. There were black slaves, but there were also black soldiers and
Right.
black, and who led troops. We've been here, and so we were part and parcel of the English history, the English, the fabric. And so I've got one here called Black Tudors. We were in court. Yes, as
Right.
musicians, but as ladies' maids and what have you. Um, but it was with the Victorians. Yeah, I'm getting back on track. Getting back on track.
Hmm.
It was with the
Right on.
Victorians that there was a sea change. There was the whole thing of separating us from we became the other,
Hmm.
um, with the measuring of the skulls and the separating of um, because the blacks and working class were rubbing along together, but then at some point um, science kicked in, and
Right.
it was deemed useful to turn us into the other and separate
Mm.
us, and we became outsiders. Things were never very easy, but because at one point Queen Elizabeth I said, she made this proclamation that you know she wanted that there were too many black people running around. So we were there. We were there in numbers. We were there in numbers.
Yeah.
But there were too many black people running. But we were there in numbers. So it was Victoria. So basically, I would have to get back to you on that.
That's okay. That's okay. You can send me a reading list later.
Yeah.
But no, because that's the thing. Like when you were saying about those volumes of the books as well, I there's a documentary series I've referenced before that's called The Century of the Self by Adam Curtis, and it talks about how we at this stage in time are the product of 120 years of psychological based marketing,
Yeah.
something like that, needs and wants and all of those sorts of things. And I'm always conscious of the stories we're told. I'm a man doing cross stitch, whatever the stories are. And as you rightly say, there will have been stories that have diverted the way white society looks at black society, looks at any other kind of society. And it's all just tales we're told, usually for some political reason somewhere down the line. So it's interesting to try and dial back and get to the points before that. That book of the art, I would imagine when you go back further, you start to get a truer picture of art. And then I'd imagine at some point it gets obfuscated by like marketing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there was there's a beautiful image. I think it's on the cover. I think it's actually on the cover of one of my volumes. This this Black Knight. He's in armor. He's in armor. Beautiful. I say it's just that's like the whole history thing just came. Um, so much is untold. So much is forgotten. How much of a it's not even a case of contribution. We were part and parcel, or
Mm,
we have been, we are part and parcel of the history of the country, and it's just been useful because of colonization to forget that.
mm.
But anyway, don't get me started. Anyway, yeah, anyway.
No. That's an entirely another podcast series we'll do in
Yeah, there's
2025.
another.
Something like that.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
So you mentioned House of Dragon. Do you have a favorite TV show? Was that the last good thing you watched?
Oh no, 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 oh, no. Well, I'm getting back.
Or is it a good thing?
I was kind of reluctant to get back into it, but my husband was sort of, badgering me. Oh, he's doing this, and I thought, okay, I'll give it another go. So, but that's it. And the opening credit is this,
Mm,
this tapestry being. But I've just seen the first one, and it's, that's I thought, okay, I'll watch it. But no, in terms of, I'm trying to see what. I am one for the American dramas. But one
okay.
of my favorites, oh, jeez, I love it so much. Um, The Good Fight.
Okay.
Yeah. It started off with The Good Wife, and then the
Mm,
spin-off was The Good Fight. And it's this law firm of, black lawyers and the ins and outs and what have you. And that was fabulous. But I say I have very trashy tastes when it
that's okay. You can't be exemplary in every
comes
direction.
to trashy. But yeah.
I think I heard something about the Good Fight about how like the two lead actresses, by the time they got to the last series, really did not like each other, and it's almost like if you watch the final episode of it, they're not in the same room ever,
Oh, I think
in
that
the
was
same
with,
shot, or
I
whatever.
think I heard that with the Good Wife. It was the Good
Is that
Wife.
what it is?
Yes.
Right.
Um, I heard that, and then but the spin-off is different. But
Maybe that's why the spin-off happened then.
yeah, the Good Fight. Yes, I heard that the two leads or two lead actresses, yes, fell out. But yeah. I like
Okay,
trash TV.
that's fine. Last question then: is there an interesting fact that not a lot of people know about Marcia Bennett Male?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Oh, well, yeah. I am on the facade of Westminster Abbey. Um,
Wow.
my tutor, um, uh, John Roberts, uh, he's dead now, unfortunately. He was one of several master carvers who was employed to carve what they call the I think modern day martyrs, the modern martyrs. Was it there? Modern martyrs. And he got to do, I think he did two of them. I think there's about 10 of them, 10 or 12 of them above the main facade of Westminster Abbey. So whenever they do their like the coronation, and what have you,
Hmm.
I think, oh, there I am. So I am what's her name? Manche. I always pronounce her name. Manche Massimola. She was a young African woman who was stoned to death by her parents because she would not give up her Christian faith. I
Right.
know, blimey, heavy, right? Uh,
Mm.
um, and so, but there were. I can't remember what date this was. I didn't write that down. But there was no pictures of her. There's no imagery of her whatsoever. So my tutor, I was still a student back then. I think I was a third year student when John got the commission, and he asked me if I would sit for, for this piece.
Mm-hmm.
Back then I had cheekbones and all those. But I had short hair. But so anyway, so I sat. So I've actually got a copy of his clay model, as as a keepsake. But yeah, so he he based it on me. So yeah, I'm on the facade of Westminster Abbey, basically.
Love that. That's a corker. That's marvelous.
That's my
Hey,
claim.
Marcia, thanks for having a Needle exchange with me.
Thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it, Jake. Thank you so much.